Welcome everyone. This is a short welcome video to introduce students to BEHS 380, End of Life Issues and Perspectives. The objective of this video is to introduce you to myself as well as to the requirements of the course. This is a multidisciplinary approach to the study of end-of-life issues. As such, each week, we will examine various end-of-life issues from various social science perspectives. These perspectives are noted here. We begin by examining end-of-life issues from a sociological point of view perspective. We then move on to examine end-of-life issues from an economics perspective, community health perspectives, communication studies, psychology, anthropology, geography, and political science. End-of-life issues are difficult issues to examine because for the majority of students, you have probably had experiences with end-of-life issues which make discussing these issues difficult, and may bring up feelings that you may feel conflicted about. So the objective of this course is to clarify one's personal perspective on death and dying based on a better understanding of end of life, planning issues, stages of death, and models of care for the dying. Recently, it has become acceptable to discuss death on an academic level, on a level that isn't necessarily personal. For a long period of time, discussing death was taboo in many communities. And even when we were experiencing end-of-life issues, there was often considerable discomfort with discussing these issues. We have become more open with respect to discussing death and dying, but we often do this on an intellectual level, on an academic level. And when we have to discuss these issues on a personal level, because we are a significant other dealing with end-of-life issues for a loved one, or we may have to deal with end-of-life issues for ourselves, then it really becomes more difficult to discuss. During this class, we're going to examine why this is the case. And we're going to also examine end-of-life issues more comprehensively. And that is a reason that we use multiple social science perspectives in examining this topic. Before I move on to discussing the course, the requirements for the course, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Diana Torres. I received my doctorate from the University of New Mexico in 1990. And I have been teaching, actually before this, I think I first began teaching in 1986 as a graduate student. During that time, I have taught in numerous areas, usually focused on sociology or gerontology. I teach courses at the University of New Mexico, in-person courses, on the sociology of health and illness, sociology of aging and the aged. I also teach introduction to sociology, and at UMGC, I have taught a variety of gerontology courses and behavioral science courses. I've been teaching at UMGC since 2004. A majority of the classes I have taught have been online, although I have taught 1 or 2 hybrid classes. On a personal level, I'm married. I've been married for about 30 years. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary. We have 2 children. They are both young adults now in their 20s. They have received their bachelor's degree, are both in graduate school. My hobbies are reading. I like reading a lot of various fiction genre. I also enjoy the outdoors, hiking, and in the past few years, I've really grown to enjoy listening to podcasts. During the introduction discussions, student introduction discussions, students can also tell me a little bit about themselves, why they took this course, what personal interests they have, and so on. What are the course requirements for BEHS 380? There are 4 primary ways in which individuals are evaluated. The first are discussions. This accounts for 32 points, or 32% of the course. At UMGC, the week begins on Wednesday, and that is when the weekly modules become available to students. At that time, students will find 2 folders: learning materials and learning activities. In the learning materials, they will find all the reading materials which are required for that week, and any videos that may be posted. In the learning activities area, they will find discussions and any assignments that are due that week. The discussion questions, the first response is due by Sunday at end of day. The first discussion must be supported by integrating module materials and making certain to provide in-text citations as well as references. The students are then required to post to 2 other students or respond to 2 other students' posts by Tuesday night. These second responses should be well developed and not merely "I agree" or "your post read so well." It should be a response which in some way stimulates discussion. No in-text citations or references are required for the second post. The second means by which individuals are evaluated is quizzes. There are 3 multiple choice quizzes. The due dates are on the syllabus, but the quizzes consist of 20 multiple choice questions. They become available at the beginning of the week and are due by the due date. It is open book, so students can use their book, but it is a timed quiz. Then the other 2 means by which individuals are evaluated is through a research proposal and the research project. More information on these can be found in the syllabus, and students should thoroughly review these requirements before submitting or actually before beginning to prepare either of these. You'll note that together these account for over 1/3 of the grade, so 38% of the grade. The students will also receive each week, when the module begins, will receive an announcement at the beginning of the week. And there may be announcements that follow throughout the week, but there will always be an announcement on Wednesday. And on Wednesday, students will learn what we will be covering that week, what we will be discussing in a bit more detail. There may also be some reflection on how students responded in the previous week, but there will be due dates for the discussions and the assignments which are due that week. And as I said, there will be more detail on whatever is due that week, whether it's quizzes or the research proposal or the research project. Students can expect their work to be graded normally within 7 days. The research proposal and the research project may take a bit longer to return, perhaps 8 or 9 days, because the class is at about 30 students right now. And so, of course, reading those research proposals and research projects will take a bit more time, but you will have them back in approximately a week, a little over a week. What's the best way to communicate with me? The best way to communicate with me is through the email. My email address is noted here. I check this daily and respond to students within 24 hours, normally on weekdays, and it may be a little longer on weekends, up to 36 hours. Another way to communicate with me is through instant message. If it is urgent, I would really encourage you to use the email, because for some reason, even though it's an instant message, I have noticed that there is a delay in receiving those on my end. And then the last way in which students can contact me is through the Ask Your Professor. This is located in the discussion areas, right underneath the student introductions. Okay, if students have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me. I am available to students, as I said, usually 24/7, but it may take a bit longer to respond. I look forward to getting to know everyone through your student introductions and particularly through your post to the discussion questions. Have a good week. And again, I will learn more about everyone on the discussions.